Okay, excellent stuff. Thank you ever so much. I know we're starting a little bit later, but I know we had a few people that were just struggling to join us this morning. So we're just going to give it just a minute or two longer. I do appreciate it's sort of roughly 5-10 minutes after we do usually start. But I know a few people were just trying to get themselves sorted and then join us. But we should be getting started in just a couple of seconds. So I appreciate everyone's patience there just while we're waiting for everyone to join us for this brand new masterclass this morning. Okay, lovely stuff. Thank you. I think we've got everyone on board again. I apologize, we're starting a little bit later, but I know we had quite a few people that were just sort of finishing up with their clients this morning and double desperate to join us. So we are going to get started now. So this morning we're going to be running through our employee setup and management. Now, I know some of you are watching this as employees, as stylists and therapists, and I know some of you are watching this as managers and owners and directors, which is absolutely fine. There's going to be a mixture of both. There's going to be things that your managers and directors can use to set employees up, and there's also things that our employees can do for their day-to-day bits and bobs as well. So we do always recommend, if you are a manager or a director watching this, do join our management training masterclass next week as well. We'll be running through things like that. So before we begin, the duration of this webinar is going to be approximately 60 minutes. It may be a little bit longer. I appreciate some of you may have clients at 11, but we'll try and keep it within the hour. My microphone is switched on, whereas everyone else has automatically been muted. And of course, your speakers must be turned on to hear this webinar. So if everyone can just take a few more seconds and minutes now, just to make sure you can hear me, nice and loud and you're nice and comfortable. And as always, your questions will be taken either via the Q&A or the chat box. But I always say, feel free to make it interactive. If you want to chat with me, that's perfectly fine. If not, we will always have a little Q&A session at the end as well. Now, I know a lot of you have joined me before. It's always great to have my familiar faces, but for those of you that are brand new to my masterclasses, we typically have a little mixture of PowerPoint presentations and live demonstrations. So this one for this morning, because it's all about sort of practical and getting right into the nitty gritty, there's not going to be a PowerPoint presentation. We are going to jump straight into our live demonstration. So, as always, if you do want to chat to us further, you can email me at education@shortcuts.co.uk. That's education@shortcuts.co.uk. You can give me a call on 0161 972 4900, and it's option 4. And as always, sign up to these masterclasses. We're going to be running them every week forever. They can be found at shortcuts.co.uk/online classes. So hopefully everyone will join me in the coming weeks. Excellent stuff. So with that being said, ladies and gents, we are going to jump into our live demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up my Shortcuts Fusion system. Okay, so as we get started, employee management then. Well, with that being said, it makes sense for us to start at the very beginning and look at adding that brand new employee in. Now, of course, this is more for our owners, our directors, our managers. But of course, it goes without saying, the first thing we need to do, we need to add that employee in. Once we've added that employee, that tends to sort of set the ball rolling to stepping stone in a chain link of events, or a chain reaction of events, I should say, to other features and setup that we need to do. So the first thing we're going to do for this morning, ladies and gents, is we are going to add in a brand new employee. So on the right hand side under setup, we are going to click onto the employees icon. And then in the bottom left hand corner, we're going to click onto new. And the first thing we will be presented with is the alias. Now, the alias is essentially their first name or their nickname. Now, if you've ever tried to add an employee in with a name that's already on the system, you will know you probably have to put their last name or initial with it as well. So I'm just going to pop in my alias just there. And then we're going to click done. Now, from here, we can pop the last name in, we can put the phone number, the email, the gender, everything like that. You can pop all of that information in. Then in the bottom right-hand corner, we're just going to click on to save. So that's obviously the first thing we've done there. We've added that employee in and then we've clicked save. But over on the left-hand side, we also have what we call a level. Now, a level is really determined, A, by their position in the business, but that will also affect the level pricing, such as graduate, senior, director, and so forth. So what we could do, we could hit the drop-down arrow here, and we could add in any levels that we already have in the system. But what about if we don't have any levels? What about if we're setting up from scratch? If we don't already have any levels in the system? So in the bottom right-hand corner, we have this option here that says levels. This is where we can create all of our brand new levels, and this will all be dictated to by our pricing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click new. And I'm just going to add in stylist. Now you can also choose a color that represents that particular level. So if you've got multiple stylists or multiple graduates or multiple directors, as a quick visual indicator, we can identify that level of stylist or therapist by the color. So for example, I may wish to tag all of my stylist levels with this lovely green color just here. And then we can also add a description in as well. So we can say this is an entry level or a senior stylist or whatever it may be. If you are using the walk-in manager, just make sure we tick this box that says can be allocated. And then from here, we simply click save. And then we click done. And to the left-hand side, we can then choose that level. So we've created that level stylist and we've now assigned our new employee, Mike, with that stylist level. And then we're just going to click save. Now, also while we're here, it's also worth adding in pins, biographies, and profile photos. Now, this will also make your profile, your shortcut system look a little bit more polished, but it will also pull through to features such as the online booking and the Salon mobile guest app. So you'll notice with our new employee here, we don't have a profile photo. But what we can do is towards the very center bottom of the screen, you will notice we have a more icon represented by this pencil. So we can click onto this pencil here. We can add a biography in, and then we can also add a picture in. Now the biography in particular will pull through to the About Us section, or sorry, the Meet the Team section in the Salon mobile guest app and the online booking platform. So if you have modernized your online booking with us, the biography there will pull through to that when the client is making an appointment. And of course, same with the picture. Not only will it update the profile avatar here, it will also update your online booking and your Salon mobile guest app. And to the very center bottom of the screen, we also have the pin icon. Now, again, it goes without saying, for this employee to be able to log in to their shortcut system, they will need to be assigned a pin. So we can assign them one here by clicking onto the pin icon and simply entering the staff member's pin. Whilst we're working at the bottom of the screen, you also notice we have the position icon. This will determine where the position will lay on the appointment diary. So currently, Mike is now at position 5. That will essentially mean he will have the 5th column on the appointment diary. We can also say whether this staff member is available for online booking. It means if you have online booking or the Salon mobile guest app set up, they will be able to receive online bookings. We also have a tick box here which says send appointment communications to clients, which again means if you're using confirmation text messages, this particular staff member will be able to send text message reminders to their clients. Now, you may wish to switch this off if this particular staff member is self-employed, so you don't want it coming out of your bundles. And then all we're going to do is click the Done button in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, you'll notice at the top of the screen, for example, our column Mike now has a green line underneath his name. this will show us that he is a stylist. So for any new staff member starting, as a quick visual indicator, they can now see that Mike is a stylist. And that is how quick and easy we can get ourselves an employee set up. But what about if we need to remove an employee? It often happens we need to remove a particular employee. Now, we're not able to essentially delete an employee for GDPR, but what can sometimes happen is something I get asked quite a bit. So again, if we go to set up an employee, and on the left-hand side, if we choose the relevant staff member or the relevant employee we wish to remove. So for example, I may wish to remove my employee, Nicola. Now to remove an employee, all we do is we take the tick out of the active box. But what can happen is when we take the tick out of the active box, we can see we get this information icon appear. Cannot make this employee active. Nicola still has future appointments or tasks. Please run the future appointments report to find and remove the appointments. Now, of course, what that's saying is we're not able to remove this particular employee because they still have tasks or appointments booked in. Now, to save us working through each page day by day, moving the appointments across and making a note of where all of these appointments are, we can run a dedicated and very handy report to find this particular employee's future appointments. So on the right-hand side, we're going to click onto Tools. And we're going to choose the first option underneath that says Reports. Over on the left-hand side, we're going to expand the fourth category down where it says Employees. And we're going to choose this option here, this particular report, that says Future Appointments. And I'm going to click onto the View icon. On the left-hand side, it may be worth just filtering to that particular employee. Choose the employee and click Add. Now, if this is a very sort of busy or booked up employee, it may be worth setting the date range quite far into the future. So it won't hurt. Let's just go a good couple of years into the future. When we click onto View, we can now see how many appointments are booked in. So we've only got the one, but it will show us the particular client and which date they are booked in. And then from there, it would simply be a case of just moving or rearranging that client so Nicola can then be removed from your Shortcuts Fusion system. Now you will notice when we go to remove this employee, it says this is the preferred employee for 3 clients. Deactivation will result in these clients having no preferred employee. Preferred employee essentially means that that client has seen that employee 3 or more times in a row. That's what we deem as a preferred employee. It's used for demographics and marketing. So I'm just going to remove that employee and then click Save. And that is how we can deactivate that particular employee. Now, as soon as we've created an employee, what we need to do for the purposes of online booking, we need to add in our capabilities. We need to say what that staff member is capable of. And this is most important for when clients book online. So to set up capabilities, I'm going to do it from scratch, but the majority of you watching will probably already have at least your capabilities somewhat set up. But I'm going to do it from scratch, just so you really get the idea of how capabilities can be set up. And as we said, this is most important for when clients book online, because we know what to book Mike in for. We know what to book Stacey, Chris, and Amy in for. But of course, Joe Blogs booking online isn't really going to know. So we need to make sure these capabilities are set up correctly. So on the right-hand side of our screen, under Setup again, we're going to choose Capabilities. Now, again, like I said, I'm going to do this from scratch. You will probably already have some capability categories listed to the left-hand side, but I'm going to do this from scratch. Now, remember, capabilities are basically cogs of a machine. It's wheels working in the background. Clients will not see this. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on to New, and it's a 3-step process. It goes step 1, step 2, step 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in my capability category, which is essentially say the services I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in hairdressing. Okay, you can call this cutting, you can call this styling, call it manicures, pedicures, whatever it needs to be. But I'm going to call it, actually I'm going to call it cutting to make it nice and easy. I'm going to call it cutting. So I've added in my capability category, and then I'm going to choose my specific services. So I'm going to click the service icon towards the center bottom of my screen. And then on the left-hand side, you'll notice I've got my styling category here, which features all of my cuts and blow dries. Now I could add in each individual service individually, or if every service is going to go into that category, I can simply add in the category by choosing the 6 grey dots in line with that category here. And I'm going to click the add icon, and I'm going to click done. And it will now tell me no employees have been assigned to the capability. So I've essentially said we do styling, we do cutting and styling, but I haven't said which of my employees will do this. So my third option is to choose the employee icon and then select my employees. So I'm going to select all 4 of them and then click add and then click done. Now what I could also do, I could also add my gents cuts and my gents styling into that category there. It wouldn't harm. But in this example, I'm going to say Mike, my new stylist, whilst he can do all of these services, essentially female styling, should we say, he isn't able to do gents cuts. So of course I could add gents cuts into this service category here, but then that would automatically say Mike as well could also do both ladies and gents, which is what we don't want to do. So for this example, I'm going to create a separate capability category and we're going to call it gents. So I'm going to click onto new and I'm going to call it gents. Now again, down the bottom, my second option is to choose my service. And again, I'm going to go to my men's category and I'm going to add in my men's cut and blow dry. We're going to click add and we're going to click done. And again, it will tell me no employee has been assigned to the capability. So again, I'm going to click done. And then the third option is to choose my employees. Now remember, for this example, Amy, Chris and Stacey can all do gents cuts, but remember, we didn't want to add in Mike. So we're going to click add and we're going to click done. Now again, that is why we created a separate capability category for gents to say both Amy, Chris and Stacey can do it, but we didn't want to add it into cutting because Mike cannot do the gent service. So we created a separate capability category. So again, I'm going to do the same for coloring. And I'm going to click onto service. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to expand coloring. But again, we've got Mike who isn't quite confident doing foils. So for this, all I'm going to do is add in my root tints, my semi-permanents, and I'm going to click add. So remember, Mike is able to do these services along with Stacey, Chris and Amy, but Mike isn't able to do foils yet. So again, I'm going to click done. I'm going to choose my employee, Amy, Chris and Stacey, click add. So now I need to add in my foiling capability category because both Chris, Amy and Stacey can do all colouring, but Mike can't do foiling. So I'm just going to call it foils/highlights. And again, I'm going to click onto my service. When I expand colouring, again, I'm going to leave my root tint and my semi-permanent out because they've already been assigned a capability category. So I'm going to add my foils using my multi-select tabs. I'm going to click add. It's going to tell me as soon as I click done, there's no employee assigned. And I'm going to choose employee. And again, I'm going to do Amy, Chris and Stacey, but I'm not going to add Mike in because he cannot do foils. He can only do the root tints and the semi-permanent. And that is how we can set up our capabilities. Now, I appreciate as everybody watches this, it may not be exactly the same sort of setup as yourself, but that's just a good example there of how we can set up our capabilities. But always please remember, when you do add that new employee in, you will need to assign them to your capabilities. Otherwise, the system will not know what they're able to do, and it becomes a little bit of a free-for-all for that employee. Okay, so we've created that employee, we've assigned that employee a PIN, a biography, and everything like that. We've also added in the capabilities. But what about the security level? The security level is not to be confused with the stylist level, the senior stylist level. The security level will really determine what level of access this employee will have on the Shortcuts Fusion system. So essentially what they can see, what they can touch. So to do this, again, on the right-hand side, we're going to click onto Setup, and we're going to click onto Configuration. Towards the bottom left-hand corner, we're going to click onto General, and then we're going to go right to the top left-hand corner where it says Security. Now, the first thing you will need to do whenever you add that new employee in, ladies and gents, once we go into Security, you will notice that employee is under the Unassigned column. Now, what this would mean is they have not been assigned a security column, which would mean this particular employee would not be able to log in. Okay, you may have noticed when the system logs out that this employee would not appear on the left-hand side to pop their Shortcuts pin in. So from here, they would need to be assigned a security level. Now you'll notice we've got, again, these 6 grey dots on the left-hand side. These are what we refer to as our multi-select tabs. So what we're going to do is we're going to click, drag and drop Mike under the correct security level. Now you'll notice by default, we have 3 security levels. We have an owner, we have a manager, and we have an employee. At this stage, you may have more than this, but those are the 3 default ones. So I'm going to click, drag and drop Mike under my new security level. So I'm going to say he is going to be an employee. So I'm going to click, drag and drop under the employee section. Mike has now been assigned a security level. So it now goes without saying, it's worth double checking what can these security levels see? What level of access will they have? Now, by default, an owner will have the highest level of security, manager will have the second, and employee will have the least amount of access. But how can we see this level of access? How can we see what an owner can see? How can we see what a manager and employee can see? So what we're going to do is we're going to click the tab at the top of our screen here that says Access. We're going to click onto Access, and on the left-hand side, you will see your 3 security levels. You'll notice an owner has the highest level of access, and the employee has the least. So over on the left-hand side, you've got all of your security categories. So we've got configuration, we've got stock, clients, and so forth. And you'll notice if you expand that category by selecting the plus sign to the left-hand side of the category, it will reveal the individual items within that category. And it would then be a case of working through and ticking the relevant box. Now, when you're happy with your selection, all you do is simply click the Done button in the bottom right-hand corner. And it may just be worth at this stage just giving your shortcut system a very quick restart. Excellent stuff. Okay, so that is pretty much for our manager side of things on how to set up an employee, how to remove an employee, assign a level, set up pins, bios, profile photos, capabilities, and of course, the security level. Now, if you want to go into much more depth with our management side of things, please join me next week. We're going to be running through that side of things again, plus a whole host of other things that we see our managers, our owners, and directors doing. Now, that's the manager side for today, setting up an employee for our employee management. We're now going to move on to the employee side of things in terms of day-to-day things, what our employees should be doing on a day-to-day side of things. Because I appreciate today we've got both managers and employees watching as well. So now we've set our employee up, we're going to move to a few things that our employees can be doing to manage their day-to-day schedules, appointments, and things like that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is what we'd expect our employees to be doing is really handling client data, really taking care of, appointment history, notes, alerts, and things like that. So the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at a client profile. Now, if the client is already booked in, such as Ben here or Albie here, there's one thing we can do. We can double click onto the client, and then down the bottom, we can click onto the profile icon. Now from here, we would really be keeping hot on making sure the first name is spelled correctly, the last name is spelled correctly, and we have the relevant phone number. Now, as we can see there, this doesn't look like a correct phone number. So we would always be making sure we're keeping hot on things like that. And it's always a good idea for marketing to take an email address where possible. Now, as we move to the right-hand side, you'll also notice we've got the opt-in details. Now, this is for things like marketing confirmations and communications. Now, of course, we're not able to opt a client in without their consent. So please always make sure we are double checking they have read your privacy policy and have opted in or consented to receive marketing or confirmations. But it is always worth just asking that client, because a lot of you watching will be doing email and SMS marketing. You will be sending out appointment confirmation reminders. So it is always worth getting your staff into the habit of just asking, are you happy to receive marketing via SMS? Are you happy to receive marketing via email? It will make your life a lot easier when the owners and directors and managers come to do marketing or communications and messages down the line. As we move to the lower half of the client profile, you'll notice we have a message box in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, to add that extra level of personalized service to your appointments and to your clients, you can add a little message in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, there's only a few amount of characters you can add in here, but it's always worth just adding in saying, client recently got married, client recently had a baby, client recently got a new dog, something like that. It's something you can discuss at the next appointment. So you can say, yes, Mr. Knight, I remember last time you discussed you recently got married, or, how was your honeymoon, things like that. And then that message can be deleted. And again, on the same sort of theory, adding in that extra level of personalized service, you've also got a refreshment box. I would always expect my staff to be adding in this particular client's favorite refreshment. It's very easy, very quick to just add in tea, milk, no sugar. So you could add that in there. And again, when Albie sits down, you can say, yes, Mr. Knight, can I get you a drink? I remember it's a tea, milk, no sugar. It really adds that extra level of personalized service, and it really makes the client feel, we're really remembering their needs and their wants. Now, also as well, I would also be adding in client alerts. Okay, this is an alert to make us aware of anything particular about this particular client. Now, it could be they have an allergy to latex. It could be they have very short hair. It could be they have very long hair. So I would always, again, in the client profile, be adding in my alerts towards the bottom left-hand corner. So we can be adding in now. Now, the majority of you watching will probably know that these alerts will flag up as soon as we make an appointment, but it will also appear on the appointment diary. So you'll notice here, if we click onto the touch tip, the client has an allergy to latex. So it's always a great way to really stay on top, and if there's anything in particular that we need to know. Now, what about things such as client history? I always used to say to my staff, let's make sure we've got that client history in. That can be color notes, beauty notes, clipper grade notes, but it can also be if we discussed anything in particular, such as going shorter with the fringe, lightening the color up a little bit more, feathering the top, anything like that, or even if we discussed any products. Now, it's entirely up to yourselves when you add the client history in. Sometimes staff like to add the client history in when they've mixed up the color. Sometimes staff like to add in the client history as soon as they've finished with the client, once they've discussed anything at the point of sale screen. You can do it two ways. So for example, I can double click onto my client here and I can click history down the bottom. And then towards the very center bottom, I can click onto new and I can add in my visit note history here. The majority of you will know, if you've ever been with me on site or if you've ever seen me sort of live in action, for some reason I always go to 713 and 20 volt. But from here you can also add in the clipper grade as well if you want to, clipper grade 1, anything that we've added in there. And then we can click done. Now from here, it may be the client has said to you, you know what, Chris, I love the color that you did 6 months ago. And you've been adding in multiple different visit notes, multiple different history notes over the last 6 months. So rather than scrolling through here or anything like that, what we can do is we can simply click the date range button at the bottom, and we can add in a date range of the last 6 months. And that will add in any visit notes from there. And it's a great way to filter it down. You can say, yes, I saw the last color or the last clipper grade you have a couple of months ago. What we can also do is we can print this visit note out here. And it's a way then to save you writing it down, or trying to remember it. You can print it out and then take it down to the dispensary color area if applicable. Now, you can also do, if you don't want to be adding the history in once you've mixed the color up, maybe you like to wait to the end of the service so that just as you're checking the client out, you can then update your history notes, but then you can also discuss any products and add that into your history as well. So you can say, okay, we did the color, we know what color we did, but we're also going to discuss a shampoo and product. That can all be done from the point of sale screen as we check the client out. So you'll notice at the top of the screen, we've got the client history icon here as well. And once again, you can then add the client history in or edit it if you wrote it in earlier. So you can then say, and we also discussed a particular shampoo and conditioner. Then the next time this client is in, you can be double checking the message box, double checking the refreshment, double checking the history and say, yes, last time we discussed that shampoo and conditioner, or you can even say, you purchased that shampoo and conditioner. How has that been working for you? It's a great way to really stay hot on your sort of customer care, shall we say. And that's how we can look at the client profile. Now, what I would also do is a lot of our clients with their staff, a lot of our salons, with their staff, at the beginning of the day, they ask them to print out their CPC. Now, a CPC is what we really refer to as a client profile card, and it will have those visit notes on, it will have the service on. So at the beginning of the day, you can be printing out these day sheets with the CPC on. So to do this, we can click our employee avatar at the top of the screen, and you'll notice to the very bottom right-hand corner of the window, we have a print icon. So from here, we can print out Chris's appointment schedule. That will print out all of my clients for the day. So we know what it's like. A lot of our stylists, they often come to the reception desk. They want to see when their next client in. But printing this out will give our staff a way to really take control of their column. They won't need to keep coming back to the reception desk. They can see when their client is due in. Hopefully, it will then keep us a little bit more on track so we know we've got a client booked in straight after. Now, what we can also do is that aside, we can also choose this option here, Print Employee Client CPC. That will print out my schedule, that will print out my clients, but it will also print out the client profile card. So it will also show any particular visit notes or anything like that as well. Again, a great way, say if you keep coming to the reception desk, you can print that out at the beginning of the day. You know exactly what you've got booked in, you know your schedule, but you'll also know the previous visit notes of that client as well. Now, if you're like me and you don't want to print both of those pieces of information out via an A4 printer, you can print them out via the receipt printer, which of course will print it out in a much smaller docket. And you can do that by ticking the box in the bottom left-hand corner where it says print employee schedule and CPC via receipt printer. So rather than print it out on an A4 sheet of paper, you can print it out via the receipt printer. So that's something that I would also be doing right at the beginning of the day, really taking control of my column. But also while we are at the top of the screen, again, if we tap onto my profile avatar, we can also click on to change PIN. Now, previously before our 8.1 upgrade, a lot of our staff needed to come to the managers and the owners or somebody with the highest level of security in order to be able to change their PIN. But we've made it easier now for our staff to be able to change their PIN and their PIN only. They can simply select their profile avatar. Under the employee quick profile window here, they can simply click change PIN and adjust their PIN accordingly. It saves time, or if you feel somebody else has maybe been using your PIN a little bit sneakily, you can very quickly change your PIN without the need of somebody with a higher security access. Okay, so what about then as we look at our employee, our appointment diary? Now, hopefully everyone watching this, we know how to make appointments. We know sort of the very basics of making appointments. But what about them if we've got multiple staff members visible on the screen? So you can see I've got 4 staff members, but some of you may be looking at 6 or 7 staff members. So then we need a way to really filter it down. And this is a way to be really accurate when we're making appointments. So we don't accidentally make an appointment in Mike's column or anything like that. So what we can do is we can really start to filter our appointment diary down. So on the left-hand side, we've got this option here that we call the filter. Now, some people refer to it as a golf tee. Some people refer to it as a wine glass or a cocktail glass, but it's a filter. It looks a bit like a kitchen funnel, and that can be found in the bottom left-hand corner. So all we do is we simply click onto this here, and we can start to filter down. So we've got lots of different filter options. Now, the most common one is to filter via rostered on. So for example, you'll notice Mike isn't rostered to work today. I can click onto rostered on, and that will remove Mike from the screen. So it just removes that accidental temptation of making an appointment in the incorrect stylist or staff members column. To remove that filter, we simply remove the tick in the bottom left-hand corner. But what about a slightly more advanced way to filter? You may remember about 15-20 minutes ago, we set up capabilities. So you may be watching this as a new staff member, new employee, new receptionist, and you're not quite sure what Amy is capable of doing. You're not quite sure what Chris is capable of doing. And you're not quite sure what Mike is capable of doing. Now, you may remember when we set up capabilities, I said Mike couldn't do gents cuts. So what we can do is on the left-hand side, we can filter via capabilities. On the left-hand side, we've got all of those capabilities that we set up together. We can then click onto gents, and that will then remove who is not capable of doing gents. So a very, very handy tool and a fantastic way to be nice and accurate. If you're watching this thinking, oh, I'm a new staff member, I don't know what Mike can do, I don't know what Stacey's capable of doing. As long as those capabilities are set up correctly, you can filter via your capabilities to make your appointment booking much more easy and much more accurate. Now, also in the bottom right-hand corner, it often gets overlooked. We've got our menu icon towards the very bottom right-hand corner. Now, as you'll notice as we look at our screen here, we've got lots of different colors. We've got this greeny color here, we've got a gray color, we've got a blue, and we've got our green colors. But what about, again, for our new employees? How can we keep track of that? Now, most of you over time will very quickly learn what each color means. But we can also use a very handy tool, and this tool is referred to as the color legend. So towards the bottom, again, we can click onto menu, and we can choose color legend. This will show us all of the different colors of the appointment diary. So you can see we've got normal, we've got our confirmed, we've got our arrived, we've got our clash, and we've got our modified. Now, modified would mean is if I was booked in for a root tint, You added me to the point of sale, essentially if you're going to check me out, and you changed that root tint to a full head of highlights. It means the appointment was modified. Now again, whilst we're working on that menu button in the bottom right hand corner, we can also change our view mode. Now if you're working something like 9 AM to 9 PM, it can often make your appointment diary look quite stretched. So what we can do under view mode, we can sort of zoom in or zoom out and adjust the view mode. And it's a way to essentially zoom in or zoom out and adjust your viewing pleasure. So we can see that just there. That is our view mode. Now, something we often get asked is how can our staff really take control of their column? How can they see exactly what they have done without running a particular report? Now, I would always be expecting my employees, my staff to be really keeping track of their performance. So without coming to me and saying, you know, Chris, have I hit my target? How much money have I done for today? If your staff are targeted or they're working on commission bands, it's a great idea to give them access to be able to see what we call their performance. And that will change or update in completely real time. And this is what we refer to as performance. So again, at the top of the screen, you can select your profile. Dependent on your security level that we looked at earlier, you may have access to everybody's performance, but by default, an employee under the employee security level will be able to see their performance only, nobody else's. So to view performance, all we do is we select our profile, we open up the employee quick profile, and at the very bottom of the screen, we have this performance icon here. Now, because I am looking at this with the owner security level, I am able to see everybody's performance. But like I said, if you have the employee security level, you will most likely be able to only see your own. But as I'm set up as an owner security level, I can see everybody's. So the first thing we can see at the top here is our view mode. We can change it from pounds to count. Now, count will simply show you how many services you have done, whereas pounds will show you the monetary value. To the right hand side here, you can also see whether your services are ex-tax or including tax, depending on whether you are VAT registered. Now, as we look at this at the top here, you will see a business will show everybody. That is the business as a whole. But if I select a particular employee, as I said, if you're an employee watching this and your security level is employee, you will most likely be able to only see yours anyway. But as we select a particular employee, you can see how much money they have done for today under the styling category, under the kids category, under the men's. Now, these categories here will change dependent on your setup. These are your report categories here. So we can see how much money was done for today, how much money was done for the week, and how much money was done for the month. Now, underneath, again, you can see the total business, how many services were done, how many rebooking numbers there were, how many retail products were sold, and again, for Amy in particular, how many service monetary value was, how much money she sold in retail, how much money in sundry, and the total, adding everything together. Again, underneath is the business. That would be all of your employees. So I would always be expecting my employees to really stay hot on this, really keep track of this. They should be tracking it sort of every time they check a client out. Are they about to hit their target? Are they in their commission bands? So this is the performance screen. You should really be keeping track on this. And again, giving your staff the relevant access under the security level. It's called employee performance. It's its own report. And that is performance. That can be found right at the top of the screen by selecting your employee and then clicking the performance icon here. Okay, so as we draw to a close, something a little bit more sort of advanced when it comes to making appointments. Now, hopefully, as we said, all employees, all staff, all stylists watching this should feel fairly confident making an appointment. But we also have something called the employee assistant or the appointment assistant. So in the bottom right-hand corner, we have this magic wand. Now, you may have often wondered what this was. Now, as we can see, we're quite busy for today. But if you want to just really belt and braces and just triple check that you haven't missed an appointment, so often you know what it's like. We get the clients that say to us, do you have an appointment today at 2 o'clock? And you can see you're fully booked at 2 o'clock. But if you want a really sort of guaranteed way to triple check that you didn't miss an appointment slot because you're super duper busy. So what you can then do is you can click the magic wand, which is the employee appointment assistant. We can click on the magic wand here, and we can start to feed in the information that the client is giving us. So in the top left-hand corner, we can search for a client, and then we can click next. We can then choose when this particular client would like their service. Now, by default, it usually gives you sort of around 2 months into the future. But we're going to say this client is looking for a service either today or tomorrow. This will then show us the days of the week. So you can see, because only today and tomorrow, that is only Thursday and Friday. But it may be you put in a 2-week date range and the client says to you, but I'm only available Thursday and Friday. You would then just tick the Thursday and Friday from that date range. We will then say to the client, when would you like to come in for your appointment and when would you like to be finished by? So from the start column, I'm going to choose, say they want to come in for 1 p.m. and I'd ideally like to be finished by, at the very latest, 4 p.m. And then we would say, okay, what service would you like? So they're going to say, I would like a cut and blow dry. And then we click done. You can choose a particular employee. So this particular client would like to see Amy. So for the employee icon here, we can select that employee. From here, we can now click on to search. Now we know Amy is fully booked today, so it says no available times can be found. So we could say to that client, well, unfortunately, Amy is fully booked today. I've just ran a very detailed and in-depth search there. But would you like me to add you to the wait list? Would you like to add the client to the wait list? So we're going to click yes. And then it will say, Leslie's been added to the wait list. Would you like to perform another search? So would you like to maybe search for Saturday next week? If not, we can click no. Now, what about then if an appointment becomes available? So we can see here, Amy is fully booked. And in particular, our client Leslie wanted an appointment between 1 and 4. We can see we're fully booked. But what about then if an appointment becomes available? So for example, we're going to move Ben out of the way. And an appointment has become available on the left-hand side between 1 and 4. You'll notice it now says there are availabilities. We saw a little pop-up in the bottom left-hand corner. We can now click the timer, which is our wait list in the left-hand side here. And it will say all bookable requests or all requests. All requests are ones that people have requested for today. All bookable requests are the ones that can now be booked for today. Essentially, that appointment slot has become available. So we can now see between 1 and 4, the status is now bookable. Once we've selected that particular service that we're going to schedule, we simply click the schedule icon towards the center bottom of our screen. It will then show us the times available to do that service. So I'm going to choose 2:15 here. And I'm simply going to click the book icon here. And from here, we would then just tag as applicable. And you can now see that is a fantastic way to initially be super duper accurate when the client says, do you have any appointments today? We can just triple check. And if we weren't able to fit that client in initially, we can add them to the wait list. And if that appointment slot becomes available, we get a pop-up in the bottom left-hand corner, just letting us know that that appointment has now become available. And there's a very, very good way to really add that extra level of service. So there we have it, ladies and gents, just under our hour. That is our employee management and setup. Now, as I said, that was sort of geared at both our managers wanting to set up employees. It's something we get asked quite a bit, but at the same time, I appreciate we've got a fair few employees wanting to know things they should be doing day to day or things that we should be asking our employees to do day by day. If you have watched this as an owner or a director or a manager, I would recommend you sign up to our masterclass next week, where we run through our management. Okay, and that will be setting up managers and things like that, going into schedules and much more detail. We're going to be running through reports, lots of fantastic things we can get our managers to be doing. So thank you ever so much for watching this morning. I appreciate we started a little bit late. We had a few people that were just waiting to join us. If you do have any questions, I open the floor for those now. And please feel free to drop those in the chat box or unmute yourself and chat back to me. It's entirely up to yourselves. Excellent stuff. Fantastic, everyone. So I think that's it for all of the questions. Once again, thank you ever so much for joining me this morning. It's been a pleasure speaking to everyone. Hopefully you'll be able to join me as we offer more of these in-depth masterclasses. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I shall speak to you all again soon. Thank you ever so much. Bye-bye for now.